This is Damon Fordham, adjunct professor of history at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. And a couple of mornings ago, I got a phone call from a lady who asked me to help her with a certain question. She said her daughter had seen this video either on TikTok or YouTube or one of them that said that Black people should stop saying the phrase good morning because that during slavery, the slave owners would torture the slaves and then laugh at them late at night. And that when they got up the next morning, they would be in mourning, so they would say, good morning. Well, I listened to this with patience. And I had to think before I responded. And I said, Miss, this is not true. You see, if you look at Webster's dictionary, you'll find that the English phrase "good morning" comes from the German phrase "Guten Morgen," which was about 800 years ago adapted into Old English, which eventually evolved into "good morning." And so I basically showed her evidence to that fact, and there it was. But I have to address a larger issue here. The reason that stories like that exist are several-fold. Number one, because of the tortured history of a lot of race relations in America. And number two, and this is very important, the fact that so much history of Black Americans is not taught in the schools, that this opens up the space for anybody to make up any old sort of thing that appeals to the anger and emotions of the people, and folks will believe it. Because so often folks are not taught how to go back and do what's called cross-referencing. That is, when you hear something like this, you go back and you look it up in your various sources, or you do a little paper trail on the internet by seeing where the person got that information from in the first place and seeing if it's a reliable source. Since that kind of critical thinking is not taught, in times of crisis, false prophets do well. So the thing to do when you hear a story like this is these people count on the idea that you're going to be emotional when you hear these things and just going to go and spread it and it'll trigger your emotions. Ladies and gentlemen, don't do this. Save yourself embarrassment, because if you tell your child things like this and the child goes to school and the child says in front of the teacher and the teacher may not be sympathetic and ridicules the child in front of the class, that's going to make the child look bad and that'll make you look bad in front of your child. Don't do that, okay? When you hear something, look it up. And then you see, where did this person get this information? You sort of track it down and make sure they're not pulling things out of thin air and making things up. And when you see the source of it, then once you verify that, then take it and then share it, okay? Because after all, people have gone through enough humiliation and misinformation with adding to the batch. This is Damon Fordham.